there's things that could happen in the future that people aren't even thinking of. Like, as a former CIO, I can tell you I had a backlog of projects that I wanted my people to work on, but I never had the resources, the time, money, people to get it done. So I was always in the present.
Welcome to the 1% Edge podcast, where we dive into the journeys of extraordinary guests committed to getting 1% better every day. And today's topic is the state of sales engineering. For those that don't know, sales engineers are the pre-sales individuals, the individuals that bring that technical industry expertise to the table to help get that technical win within tech companies. And I'm really honored to have John Care, author and managing director at Mastering Technical Sales, who's also an old friend. We used to be SEs back in the day in the 90s, back at Clarify CRM. And to boot, he's also a proud NFL owner, which we might get to at the end. Welcome, John.
Hey, thanks for having me, Carlos. It's so good to see you. And yes, I think we worked together, like 25 years ago. It's been a while.
Yeah, especially since I'm only 30 years old.
I mean, it's
crazy.
Yes. Yeah. It's like my wife. She says she's a child bride. So, yeah.
You know you're getting old when you have T-shirts that are older than individuals you work with.
So true.
You bring out a T-shirt and it has a year and you're like, ooh, holy cannolis, what the hell? And you got to go, maybe I have been around for a little bit. But sometimes with time comes knowledge, and you have a ton of knowledge about what we're talking about as sales engineers. So how about this? Why don't we define the role for our audience? What does it mean to be a sales engineer? What industries are they primarily in?
Sure. So to build on your brief description earlier, so a sales engineer is the technical partner to a sales rep or account executive. We think of them primarily being in the technology space, in software and in hardware, but they're also in services, medical supplies, heat pumps, solar panels, things like that. So the role of the sales engineer, as I said, is to be a partner to the sales rep, and think about it in terms of your audience. Suppose that you are an enterprise sales rep for a honking big company like an Oracle, Cisco, HP. You go to make a sale, to introduce yourself to a customer, and they start asking you technical questions, right? The rep goes, whoa, hold on. And they go back and they bring someone with them who does the demo, the presentation, discovery, solution design, whatever it is. That's the sales engineer. And those are the people that my organization works with to improve the profession every single day. There's somewhere around 2.5 to 3 million of us in the world. So we are unicorns. It's a very rare breed. But if you can find a great SE, as every good sales rep knows, you're on your way to President's Club. So,
love it. All right. I got a question for you on the role.
Yeah.
Some organizations, they're another leg to the stool of these technical sales, right? They bring an important part to the sales process. Other organizations, they're a glorified demo jockey. Hey, you come in, you wind them up, go show them the stuff, the good stuff. And obviously based on my question, I have a bias, but I love your opinion of out of those 3 million SEs out there, what are you seeing? What model works the best?
The first one. So the company that utilizes their SEs as pure techies, and you keep them in the corner office and feed them pizza and wheel them out to do a demo, those companies, if they're not already dead, they are rapidly dying because you can't compete. And we'll probably get into this later, but one of the things that's changed about the role over the last few decades is that the SE has become more consultative and sales and business aware, and has had a lot more skills placed upon them in terms of what they have to demonstrate and utilize in the marketplace, compared to the role of the rep, whereas the role of the rep has barely changed in 30, 40 years, other than using technology a little better. So I think that's one of the differentiators right there. So you truly are a sales and business partner with the salesperson. You don't work for the rep, you work with the rep.
Okay, let's dive into that further, because that really is the next place I want to go. I do think whether they're an SE or a sales rep, there's this shift in the industry. It's always ebbs and flows. of, hey, I need our reps to be and our sales teams to be more consultative. I need our teams to really help the customer come up with a justification to actually even make a purchase these days. We cannot rely on growth at all costs and we're just, demo jockeys and the product's going to sell itself. How is that impacting the role of an SE today?
Sure. So let's look at it from the customer's point of view, because ultimately the customer is number one and the most important people in this whole equation. So we did a survey, and it's a running survey we've done for a number of years. We had, I think, like 11,000 responses. And so we asked people at Fortune 1000 companies, who provides the most value to you and your team as you go through a vendor sales process? We asked that question of individuals, middle management, and executives, and we gave them 4 options. We said general collateral, the technical team, the sales rep and sales management, and executives from the vendor. Far and away by 2.5 or 3 to 1, the people that the customers say provides the most value to them and their team are the technical team, the sales engineers, and post-sales as well, the consultants. And this is kind of the secret weapon that we as techie / business people have, is that we provide this value, and with value comes trust. Right? And anyone who's been a sales engineer for more than 3 months, and you've experienced this too, the customer will tell you things they would never, ever tell the salesperson, right? And they'll just share things with you because they trust you, because you're in the room to help them and the rep is in the room to sell them. And I think that is one of the major things that's changed, again, over the last few decades, as the SE has been asked to be more consultative, is that trust and that value is now not just in the technology, but how the technology relates to the business and the uncovering of pain and the generation of gain.
All right. Is that impact for lack of a better word, the conversation, right? The types of questions that the SE asks, how they position things. Because sometimes, and you see the gambit, right? Sometimes they're really good at the product and they really want to talk about the product. But the better SEs are the ones that go, well, first, let's talk about the customer and their situation, and then map back to that, map back from a product perspective, how it might be able to help them. How's that been changing, or how's that conversation been changing?
I think that has been in place for a long, long time. It maybe hasn't been fully recognized by the sales industry in general. If you think about discovery, right, and all sales start with a lead, and that then goes into discovery. It's not the demo, it's the discovery comes first. And discovery, the analogy I like to use is that of the DNA, the double helix, right? There is technical discovery and business discovery, business value discovery, that go on simultaneously. And it's really hard to separate the two. And the illustration is that the number one class workshop that my company delivers globally is called business value discovery, right? And this is directed towards the sales engineer. And the headline of it is, it's all about patience. And you're not allowed to talk about your technology. And you get these young 25-year-olds who know every single feature of their products. Like, what? And it's no. Until you know what the customer's problem is and uncover their hopes and their dreams, why are you talking about technology? Because there's just going to be a mismatch. And so I think that's the really important thing. And it's one of the attributes, if you like, of a world-class sales engineer in conjunction with a world-class account rep, is they do this and uncover it together. And at the end, you've got, again, go back to it, a set of pains that need to be solved, and hopefully a set of gains that need to be achieved. And how do you map your portfolio back to that so you are uniquely qualified to do it as opposed to the other guys?
So I think you've hit on something that's really critical, and it's that business side of the equation. Because a lot of times they say, hey, I'm the technical expert. And the reality is the only reason you're the technical expert is to solve some business needs and demands and problems at the end of the day. Because if it doesn't, then it's hard to justify any investment, right? People are not just buying it because it's technically better. People are buying it because of the gain side, the impact it might have. So can you define a little bit better? What do you, I think the pain's obvious, but what do you mean by this pain gain kind of mix? And what's the gain part really mean?
Sure. So every sales methodology in the world talks about pain, right? I mean, you're intimately familiar with this. You teach one of them. So it's always find the pain, find the pain, find the pain. And most salespeople are pretty good at doing that. Sales engineers look at it a little differently. And we kind of classify it, and we teach 3 kinds of pain. And we should cover that before we get into gain. So the first one is latent pain, which is where the customer has a problem, but they don't know they have the problem, or they have the problem for so long that they just live with it. Right. The example I cite is I have a pain in my right knee. Very mild pain. I've had it for 20 years. No one is ever going to convince me that I need to go get an MRI or a CAT scan or have a surgeon look at it because I live with it. Right. So that's a latent pain. Now, next thing along is a current pain. Right? And this is what we uncover in sales calls. You get into the parking lot afterwards, or you close down the Zoom, and you go, yeah, we got a great one here, right? Where the customer says, we're violating our SLAs. We're coming out with a new product next month. Any of those. So that's a current pain, and that's what we love. And then the third one is the vision pain. And this is where something is going to happen potentially in the future, but the customer, by themselves or with your help, wants to solve it now. Mergers and acquisitions is one example, competitor moving into the market, something driven by legal regulations, HIPAA, things like that. So those are the 3 kinds of pain. And one of the great things that a sales engineer can help the rep do is to move something from latent pain to current pain. Right? So you can either do that by making the pain worse, right? Which is where someone might say to me, hey, John, I had a friend like that who had the same pain as you. He died 3 months afterwards, right? So that's making the pain worse, extreme example. So that's the punch in the nose, right? There's the gentle shove, which is, hey, John, you got 2 grandkids. Like, don't you want to be able to roll around on the floor and play with them and put all those Legos together and everything else? Isn't that need getting in the way? Right? So that's selling a positive side of things. So that's kind of how SEs look at pain. And our data shows about 80% of transactions are driven by pain. Right? So this is a very long answer to your question. I know that. But what differentiates a world-class SE from a regular SE is they look for the gain as well. And the gain is where you might say something to the customer, hey, Carlos, so if we fix these problems that you've got right now, let's go ahead a year from now. What are some things that you and your team might be able to do that you can't get done today? And what I'm trying to do is get you to lift your head up from the immediate pain, the bleeding, right? And to walk with me into the future and think about, we call it puppy dogs, unicorns, sunsets, walks on the beach, right? All the good things that can happen when the product is in place. And what you do is establish a positive emotional link between your portfolio and good stuff happening in the future. And 20% of transactions get driven by that. So just think about it. If you can get a 20% edge by not only solving pain, but also by promoting gain and selling into gain, what difference would that make to your close rate, your pipeline, profitability margin, and everything else? It's tremendous. And that's what our clients tell us.
Okay. On the gain side, because this is one thing I have a thing, should it be measurable? It's one thing to say you're going to reduce costs, drive more revenue, have more efficiency. But let's face it, competition doesn't say, hey, we suck at those things. On the surface, they're all kind of saying we're going to have an improvement. How detailed should that improvement, that gain be?
It can be emotional. You can put numbers on it. I would push back a little on your assertion that the competition does it as well, because we've seen that with many of our clients that their competitors don't. And one of the differentiators and one of the reasons that we get an incredible ROI from our workshops is the fact that we actually teach people to focus on the gain and not just on the pain. So yeah, it can relate to the classic 3 things, right? Increase revenue, decrease costs, or mitigate risk. But quite often, there's things that can happen in the future that people aren't even thinking of. Like, as a former CIO, I can tell you, I had a backlog of projects that I wanted my people to work on, but I never had the resources, the time, money, people to get it done. So I was always in the present. But if I could make some stuff go away, man, all those projects that I get people working on that was going to make the business run faster, better, cheaper, like what a difference that would make. So if the only thing selling into gain does is it gives you the win in the event of a draw, a tie for you American audiences, that's still a plus, right?
So it looks like when we think, and I don't want to assume this. So when we talk about gain, like you talked about problems having three types.
Yeah.
So we talked about gain on the surface, at least there's two types, right? There's a business gain to the organization, like we just said, make more money, save money, more efficiency, reduce risks. But there's also a personal gain. And that means really the impact to the individual, right? Like that system admin having more time with their family, the system admin having less stress, that system admin being able to hit their bonus because they're actually able to deliver the results and that their KPIs are based on. Do I have that right?
You do, and as you know, Carlos, I love examples, so I'll give you one. In the mid-90s, before I was working with you, I worked for a company called Sybase, database company. We competed with Oracle. It was the fastest database out there. Wall Street loved it, and I was privileged enough to lead what we call the FB&I unit, finance, brokerage, and insurance. And believe it or not, we had all the executive sales. But the way that we sold over the database admins was this: we'd say, "Hey, Sunday, go buy a copy of the New York Times, open up the IT jobs section, see what the average salary is for a Sybase DBA compared to the average salary for an Oracle DBA," and we just left it there. Right? We walked out the room, and the next week we come back in, and they'd look at it, and it was double. Right? So if you talk about motivation, right, and gain, that was just a silent gain that we were selling as to why you might want to buy Sybase instead of Oracle. Purely personal, but it was highly effective.
Well, there's a rule in value selling that it's one of our principles. People make emotional buying decisions for logical reasons.
Yes.
And the reality is, and I've asked this question around the globe. What's more impactful, a business gain or a personal gain? And I go, they both matter. So it's not an argument of, one is totally more important than the other, but which one you think drives your decision as an individual? And everybody, comes to their wits and say it's personal. Because at the end of the day, how I'm impacted personally, how it impacts my family and me is going to impact my decisions. We don't, if for those folks that say it's business, I always go, great. Tomorrow, here's what we're going to do to really grow our revenues. We're going to cut all your salaries in half, and we're going to be hugely successful as a business. Yeah. They go, no.
Yeah, that is right. As you said, people buy with emotion and then defend their decision afterwards with logic. So, yes.
Yeah, so it sounds like this game part. All right, one last part of it. So what role is it, it depends on the organization. Oh, it's the rep's job to kind of figure out the game, because that's really helps give it, the justification for the project, if you will. And, I think it's both their roles. In fact, you said it earlier. The SE is able to get sometimes a lot more detailed information. A rep asked, would that help lower truck rolls for an organization that's got vehicles going out and servicing, let's say, healthcare equipment? Yeah. The SES like, well, how many do you think? And the customer starts thinking about it. Well, we have on average X truck rolls a day. On average, it costs us $3,000 or $300 or $100. And, we have so many technicians going out. Oh my God, that would be. And it's like, the SE's got the ability sometimes to get a lot more detailed. And I think partially because they're able to also get into the problem. Like, what is it costing you today, current state, versus future state? So it's a long question to kind of go, where do you stand on the role of getting that game between the rep and the SE?
So I totally agree with you. It is the job of both of them. And it's basically a married couple, right? And people have strengths and weaknesses, and you just want to make sure there's no daylight between the two. In general, salespeople are a little bit better at uncovering pain. It's what they've been told and they've been hammered into since they were like 6 years old. And SEs, once they understand where to focus, are way better at uncovering the gain. And quite often that comes from actually like taking a shot at do nothing. Like, well, what happens if you do nothing, right? What happens if you just leave it as it is? And quite often they're told the sales rep, we can live with it. It's no major impact. The SE asks that, particularly, if you're walking over to the coffee machine or everyone's off the Zoom call, but you and your one tech contact, I say, actually, and then they just start spilling the information. So it is the team's job to do it. There are very few things in the SE-AE partnership that are clearly focused in one area, right? So yeah, the AE does, you would hope, negotiations, legal contracts, shepherding the deal internally, maybe generating the lead initially. A big chunk of the heavy lifting in the middle, right? The technical proof of value, linking the technology back to the business, solution design, everything else, that's done by the SE in conjunction with the rep. So, as I said, my analogy, it's a married couple. You need to just work together, get it done.
I love that. Well, I feel like I can't have a conversation or a podcast without mentioning AI. So what's the impact of AI on the sales engineering role?
Tremendous. Mostly positive, which a lot of professions can't say. I will preface this by saying, come 2029, I would much rather be a sales engineer than an account executive in terms of being certain about my job. That said, AI has been automating the low end of the job for a while now. There's been actually, even before ChatGPT came truly into being, Perplexity, everything else, there was tooling out there for the SE that automated the low end of the job. And by that, I mean RFI, RFP generation, building automated demos, things like that. But now AI is coming in, and really it's at the level of a junior inside sales engineer. In terms of being able to quickly generate slide decks, put together the structure of a discovery call or the outline of a demo, do that work for the SE. For the more experienced SE, it's awesome for doing research. So where it used to take you hours, you think about what we had to do before we went in and met with a new client, right? You can get that done in minutes now. It's basically offload it, it's done asynchronously, and wham, you get this summary back about, here's the high-level summary about the company. Here's what we know about the people you're going to be meeting with. Here are the common pains for people in this industry. Here are the specific pains and maybe gains that we've been able to determine from publicly available material. This is where you need to focus your conversation. So that's made the job a lot easier. Over the next 3 or 4 years, their bots are going to be buying from our bots. It's already happening on the low end for commodity products. That's going to come up market as well. So the differentiator for the sales engineer and for the AE is going to be our basic humanity, and the interaction, having conversations like this, and finish up with a illustration. The audience has probably figured out by now I like to do this. Last week I had a conversation with a VP of sales engineering at a local coffee shop here in my hometown. That conversation was about an hour and a quarter. We had bagel, a couple of cups of coffee. And here's the thing, the contents of that conversation is never going to be known to an AI engine, other than a few notes that I put in my internal CRM system. Right? Things like that happen all the time. So what you're going to have is you're going to have AI, whatever format it is over the next 3 or 4 years, is going to be making hopefully good decisions based on marginally incomplete data. Whereas we as human beings are going to be making not quite so good and accurate decisions based on a more complete set of data. And we'll see where that takes us.
Yeah, one of the things, and I've had this conversation with multiple folks, it's like, the knowing something, let's face it, AI will, know more than we'll ever, because we're just human beings and we're flawed that way, right? But the EQ side, the ability to have emotional intelligence and have a conversation and have a human-to-human connection, that's the part, especially for complex products, that seems to be our strength, right? At least today, right?
It is.
So go ahead.
And it is, and it's one of the aspects of that is the storytelling. And I'm a big storyteller, but the validity of me telling a story to one of my clients as opposed to an AI engine, splatting it out in text or using any kind of voice to explain it. Who are you more comfortable with listening to that story, right? So it's a generational thing. If you talk about my grandkids who are now the 3 and 6, right? They will, when they're a little older, in fact, they are now comfortable with listening to stories that are generated on the fly from their machines in front of them. So it's a generational thing. You deal with people now from their 20s and up, they'd still rather hear that from a human being than from a machine. Skynet and Terminator is still out there for those of us who are old enough.
Well, it's funny you say it because, I always try to even question my own thinking, right? So you and I grew up in a place where, hey, we have conversations. Mm-hmm. Millennials, less. Gen Zers, even less than that. And we talk about human to human connections and having a conversation and getting to know each other and building some trust and rapport, being critical to sales. But there is a younger generation that are like, hey, look, I don't care about building a personal relationship with you. I actually want to just understand the product. Does it do X or does it do Y? And how much is it? And I'll make a decision, because they've grown up with, hey, when I bought something, let's say over Amazon, for example, I didn't talk to anyone. And at first I pushed back on it, but now, John, to be honest with you, I kind of question myself. I go, maybe that is, like you even said it, maybe for more commoditized products, their bot will buy from our bot, and that's going to be perfectly all right, and it's acceptable. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But maybe for more complex products, it's that human connection is still going to matter. And I love your perspective on that.
It is, and that line where that happens is going to just go up and up and up, right? So now, yes, people are comfortable buying something on Amazon or online for several $1,000s. Very few people are going to spend $1 million or a couple of $1 million on something that they just see online, other than people who've got a lot of money to burn and want to buy a house or a yacht or something, right? In the corporate world, you still have to go back and justify your purchase to somebody. Again, when I was a CIO, I had a budget, but anything I spent that was more than about $10,000, I had the financial controller yap it in my ear, say, well, why are you spending that money? So that still happened. There's always a business case that needs to be made. And yeah, you can just kind of put that on a piece of paper or electronically, but there's still the personal aspect to it. And that's going to remain in place for a long time. But the bar at which that happens is just going to go up and up and up and up as we go through the months, not even the years.
Agreed. I'm with you. All right. So for folks out there that want to build a world-class organization, what might be a couple of recommendations you have for them in building their sales teams so they can actually really have a deeper pain gain conversation?
So focus. So I believe discovery is everything, right? And don't get taken off track by those reports out there from Gartner and everybody else that says, clients are 89% of the way through the transaction before they even talk to you. And Gartner says that all they want to see is a demo. If you actually look at that data and the way the data was generated and add your own experience to it, my belief is, a little controversial, that's BS. Everyone wants to be understood. Every single client that I deal with, and we have like 600 plus at this point, believes they are different from the other guys and gals. So there's always an opportunity to do discovery before you launch into a demo or a presentation, even if the sales rep is pushing you not to do it, your execs are pushing you not to do it, or even the customer. You can always find some analogy to do it. If you walk into a doctor's office and they just look at you and say, take 2 aspirin and come back in the morning, that's what you're asking me to do, right? Or you walk into a car dealership, or you walk into Best Buy and buy, a fridge or a stereo, whatever it is, right? So it's that kind of thing. So do focus on discovery, because discovery is painting the target before you shoot at it. Organizations focus a lot on sales process. Organizations focus a lot on the sales side, and they focus on demos on the pre-sales side. And to me, that's the wrong place to be looking at. I think salespeople need to focus on the relationships and have a little bit of a framework, a sales process to take them through it for discipline. And SEs need to get heavier on the front end which is the discovery, and the back end, which is the relationship, the trusted advisor building, and not have this maniacal focus on demos in the middle, because I think it cheapens our profession and takes us back to demo monkeys, or demo jockeys, as you said 20 minutes ago. So that's where I would say that you should be focusing from a process and learning and knowledge area, at least.
Love that. And I completely agree. All right, John, I could talk to you forever, but I got to close this thing out eventually. For our audiences that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, so a recent thing that I added to my LinkedIn profile, which is generally a lot of fun, is NFL owner, and you put that at the start. So actually, about 10 years ago, my adult children bought me one share in the Green Bay Packers, which you can do here in the US. So I had that proudly displayed over there on my office wall. But I decided it was time to broaden my LinkedIn profile, so I became an NFL owner. So that's kind of like one unique thing about me, I think. Business wise, I said, I'm a author. I got all the different books out there, right? The illustrations, and my company works almost predominantly just with sales engineers, and we are out there improving what we call professional skills. I hate the word soft skills. No one ever pays money for soft skills, but they will pony up dollars, euros, whatever, pounds for professional skills. So my company now has, like over 20 facilitators delivering 30 plus workshops in, I think, 8 or 9 different languages all around the globe, which all started from this book that I started writing when I was working with you 25 years ago.
I remember. I was just going to say that. I remember when you said we're going to write this book. I mean, really? Yeah. Okay, good luck. And who knew it would Indeed. Spawn this amazing, chapter in your life, which is, I'm really proud of you, buddy. You've done awesome.
Well, thank you. And it's humbling. I never expected it to. I wrote the book out of frustration because I couldn't find anybody to train sales engineers. So I thought, let's do something about it. Yeah.
Well, hey, what's your 1% edge? What are you working on to get 1% better these days?
So I have two, right? Because I never just have one thing, as you know, Carlos. So personally, I am working on a 1% edge where my goal is, I'm a big believer in the philosophy, a year from now, you'll wish you started today. Right? So I'm now of that age where health becomes way more important than maybe it was 20, 30 years ago. So my 1% is that I have made a commitment that every month I'm going to get one of my numbers, whatever it might be, visceral fat, cholesterol, weight, you name it, to go by 1% in the right direction. Right? So that's my personal thing to get in shape. I'm now at the lowest weight I've been actually since I knew you. So it's kind of working. My professional goal is that Up to Speed, which is our master holding company, Mastering Technical Sales, as part of that, asked me to raise my profile, believe it or not, and do a little bit more out there in the marketplace with publicity, interviews, and so on, starting August. And I thought, let's get a head start on this and do some work with you in July. So more is vague, right? But no, 1% of the working day is about 5 minutes. So when I'm not doing things like this, I take an extra 5 minutes a day to do a little bit more outreach and reaching out to people, responding on LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok and whatever else. So those are my two 1%. So that's 2%.
I think those are awesome. Yeah. And we talked about it before the podcast too. I'm trying to focus a little bit more on health as well these days. And I think it's a good thing for all of us.
Absolutely.
So, hey, if people want to get a hold of you, learn more about you, learn more about the book, and learn more about your organization, what's the best way for them to reach out?
So obviously you can ping me on LinkedIn, right? John Care, easy to find. Remember, it starts with a C, tender loving, not a K. And then there's also the website and the books. So masteringtechnicalsales.com. There's a whole bunch of material out there. There's a book about trusted advisor. There's an SE manager's handbook. So between those two, that's the best way to do a little bit of discovery about me and my organization.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, John. Really appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, loved it. It's great catching up with you again, Carlos. We should do this in another 25 years.
Hopefully sooner. All right, everyone. That does it for this week's episode. I hope you found value in our conversation. If you did, please comment back, subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. I wish you nothing but the greatest success. Until next time.